Let's get into your first lesson. Number one, what got you here will not get you there. There are very real stages of small business growth.
That is absolutely true and something that I've learned over time. And none of this tied together is super scripted or planned, but something I just thought of is that a lot of what we'll talk about are going to be couched in lessons I've learned in business, in leadership in business, but they apply to personal life, right? There's a personal effectiveness equivalent to organizational effectiveness lessons, and vice versa. There's organizational effectiveness lessons that can be derived from personal effectiveness understanding, right? So we're just talking about living organisms here, either an individual person or a living organism called a business that has a system of parts that all work together to produce an outcome. So we'll just play that interchangeably a little bit here. But yeah, what got you to this point is insufficient to get you where you want to go. And the funnest way to talk about that for me is a truth that I learned in our graduate program. It was an organizational behavior program. And that, you spend all this time and money on school. And I got like one key takeaway. So I'm about to give you 2 years of master's program in one statement. Okay. And here it is. All organizations are perfectly designed to get the results they get. That's from a guy named Arthur Jones. He said it that way. Many others have said other versions of it, but it's basically you get what you get because you put in what you put in. The thing that we built is what gives us today's result. And if we want to go to tomorrow's result, something better, something bigger, then we have to change. We got to keep learning. We got to keep growing. And so there are these stages in small businesses on the ones and threes of revenue. Turns out there's a pattern to it. And so when you grow your business from 30,000 to 100,000 in annual revenue, you go from side hustle to now I'm fully self-employed. That's a stage change. And there's new stuff that you have to figure out if you want to go from 100,000 to 300,000. That new stuff is how to sell more. And from 300,000 to 1 million, there's a new thing. And you have to figure out how to get consistent lead generation and how to fulfill on your product or service consistently. That's a new thing. And once you do it, you create this steady operation and you hit the $1 million mark and there's a new stage change. And from the 1 to 3 and the 3 to 10 and 10 to 30, it just keeps happening. Unfortunately, it doesn't naturally happen. Like you have to work to keep going. But yeah, there's this is kind of phenomenon. Every time you triple in size, you max out what the current thing can do. And you've got to learn something new if you want to keep growing.
That adage, and I'm probably going to botch it up, right? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. Holds true for everything, life, business, relationships. It really does. If you want to step to the next level of evolution, you have to make those changes. It's all about change.
And we often talk about it in using a bicycle analogy. I like analogies, people relate to them. And somebody's riding a bicycle, multi-speed bicycle. They get started in a gear that's easy to start in. And then pretty soon they could be pedaling like crazy. They could pedal as hard as they want and get no more real additional yield out of that gear. And it's only when they shift gears that now that same amount of effort or even less yields more output, yields more productivity until they max out that gear. And then they find themselves just trying so hard to get more out of that bicycle in that same gear. And it's not until we shift that we see added effort yielding more output. And we do that in business a lot. I see business owners who learned how to throw it on their back, scrape and claw and grit and tenacity, all the things that we talk about with entrepreneurship. And they get far, but then they tap out. And they think that just working harder is going to get it further, but they actually need to shift gears and learn some new things. So that's the lesson around what got you here won't get you there. To the famous Marshall Goldsmith quote.